Those who travel on Melbourne's suburban train network will be familiar with station names. But did you know that each station also has a unique code? Yes, very much like IATA codes assigned to airports that we see on baggage tags when flying, each Melbourne station has its own unique three-letter identifier. These codes are really only used for operational reasons, and travellers don't need to know them, but they are there. So let's take a look at these codes. I've made a version of my Melbourne rail map with every station name replaced with the name of the world airport that station's three-letter code designates. There are 225 stations on the metro network, and I included 10 stations served by V-Line, Geelong and Ballarat lines in Melbourne's western suburbs. Of the 235 stations, the codes for 43 stations have no IATA equivalent. For example, Southern Cross Station's code is SSS, but the code SSS has not been allocated to any airport. Other major stations with no airport counterpart include Flagstaff, FGS, Footscray, FSY, Cranbourne, CBE, and Upfield, UFD. I understand many codes starting with N are unavailable as they're reserved by the US military, and it's probably for the best that Rip and Lee's RIP code is never affixed to air travellers' bag tags. The 192 airports which do have IATA codes matching Melbourne station codes come from 64 different nations around the world. The best represented is the USA, which matches 71 stations, and the best represented US state within that is Alaska, which has airports sharing their code with 8 stations. The nation with the second highest number of matching airports is Australia, with 16. Equal third with 7 are Brazil and the UK, which has 3 from England, 3 from Scotland and 1 from Wales. Then France, and perhaps surprisingly Papua New Guinea, both on 6. Ireland is next with a very respectable count of 4. It's a bit surprising that such geographically large countries as Canada and Russia have just 2 and 1 match respectively. Some of the more notable world cities that share their airport code with Melbourne stations include Seattle, which matches to Seaford, Cape Town to Crib Point, Edinburgh to Edithvale, Southampton to Southland, Hamburg to Hampton, Denver to Dennis, Alexandria to Hurstbridge, Nairobi to Williamstown, and Stockholm's main airport at Arlanda, which shares the ARN code with the new Arden station. There's also Parliament Station that has the code PAR, which, whilst it isn't the code of any one airport, is apparently the IATA booking code for Paris any airport. Perhaps the most serendipitous match, though, is Melton, whose code, MEL, is the code for Melbourne Airport at Tullamarine, 22 kilometres to its east. Melbourne's second commercial airport, Avalon, has the IATA code AVV and does not match any station, but the airport is served by Lara Station, which has the code LAR shared by Laramie, Wyoming, USA. Are there any places which share both name and code, you ask? Well, yes. Newport Station and the airport for Newport, Rhode Island, USA share the code NPT, and Heidelberg Station and Heidelberg Airport in Germany both use HDB. There are also 2 very near misses with Armidale Station and Armidale Airport in New South Wales, both using the ARM code, but of course the spelling of the 2 locations is 1 letter different. And Belgrave Station shares the BEG code with Belgrade in Serbia. Then there are stations that do share an exact name with an airport but don't have the same code. For example, the airport for Batman, Turkey, has code BAL, but Batman Station uses the code BXM, which in turn identifies the airport in Brunswick, Maine, USA. And that's a double fail, given the Brunswick Station, just 4 stops south of Batman, shares its BWK code with Brač in Croatia. Other notable matches include Alice Springs, which shares its ASP code with Aspendale, Tennant Creek, Northern Territory, which shares its TCA code with Tacoma, and one of the best is Aircraft Station, which, with a name like that, deserves a quality aviation match, and as it happens, delightfully shares its ACF code with Brisbane's Archerfield Airport. Train lines in Melbourne are normally known by the name of their terminal station, so it boggles the mind what travellers to the eastern suburbs would think of boarding a Belgrade line train, or how confused visitors from Perth might be to find a Midland line going to Mernda. But I have to say, knowing the Sandringham and Sunbury lines as the Shirahama line and the Matsuyama line, respectively, makes them sound like they're Shinkansen bullet trains. These station codes are a bit hidden from the public, but they do feature in the design of some of Melbourne's new Skyrail stations. You won't see them whilst actually travelling on the trains, but at the entrances to some stations, most notably on the Dandenong line, these 3-letter codes are installed at ground level at the station entrance. I know of 5 stations where they're installed: Carnegie, Murrumbeena, Hughesdale, Clayton and Noble Park. These stations are all quite similar, so they do serve to distinguish them from one another, and they advertise trains to the passing parade of car drivers, much as the famous London Underground roundel promotes the tube in London. These are works of art, and they do look quite nice, particularly at night time when they're lit dynamically with coloured lights.